Good day, everyone. I am Carl Patrick Pabantuan, your online teacher for today's discussion. I will be discussing about the creative nonfiction. Before we jump up into our proper discussion, allow me to read our learning objectives. At the end of the discussion, the student should be able to understand the definition and scope of creative nonfiction, describe the elements of creative nonfiction, and create different types of creative nonfiction. So what is creative nonfiction? From the given definition of my presentation, creative nonfiction is also known as literary nonfiction or narrative nonfiction. It is a genre of writing that uses literary styles and techniques to create factually accurate narratives. It is also rich of mixed flavors, ideas, and techniques, some are which are newly invented and others as old as writing itself. So creative nonfiction can be an essay, a journal article, a research paper, a memoir, or a poem. It can be personal or not. So we have the characteristic of creative nonfiction. So the first one is fact. So the writing must be fact rather than fiction. So it cannot be made up. Extensive research. So the piece of writing is based on a primary research such as an interview or a personal experience, and often secondary research such as gathering information from books, magazines, and newspaper. Reportage or reporting. So the writer must be able to document events or personal experiences. So another is a personal experience and personal opinion. So often the writer includes personal experience, feeling, thoughts, and opinions. For instance, when writing a personal essay or a memoir. So also the explanation or exposition. So the writer is required to explain the personal experiences or topic to the reader. Essay format. So creative nonfiction is often written in essay format. So example, personal essay, literary journalistic essay, and brief essay. So we have also the element of creative nonfiction. So the main element of creative nonfiction are setting, descriptive imagery, figurative language, plot, and characteristic. So first one is setting. So I believe everyone understand and know the elements of, also know some elements of creative nonfiction, and this setting is very understandable. So each story has a setting. So the story is the place where the story takes place. So the next one is descriptive imagery. So it is the way the writer paints the scene or image in the mind of the readers. It usually involves a description of one or more of 5 senses: sight, sound, smell, touch, or taste. So in descriptive imagery, so the writer will give a hint or will give a descriptive sample, like on how the writer explain what is lemon. So on how she describe what is lemon. So the next one is plot. So it's one of the basic elements of every story. So put simply, plot refers to the actual event that takes place within the bounds on your narrative. The next one is a scope. So the term scope refers to the boundaries of that, where and when does the story begins and ends. So what is focus? What background information and details does the story require? So basically, scope is the boundaries of plot or the story. So also we have the sequence. So sequence of your plot or the order of the event will determine your reader's experience. There are infinite number of ways might structure your story, and the shape of your story is worth deep consideration. So this is the Freytag pyramid chronological. So this is also part of this sequence. So the first one, the exposition. So introducing the characters and preparing the reader for the journey. So we have also the next one is the rising action. In this part, things start to happen. So you and your characters encounter conflict, set out on a journey, meet online people, and etc. So the climax, so this is the peak of the action, the main showdown, the central event towards which stories has been building. So falling action. Now things start to wind down. So you and your characters come away from the climatic experience change at the very least. You are wiser for having had that experience. And the last one, we have the resolution. So also known as denouement. So this is where all the loose ends get tied up. So the central conflict has been resolved and everything is back to normal, but perhaps a bit different. So for the next one, excuse me. So this is the nonlinear narrative. So nonlinear narrative may be told in a series of flashbacks or vignettes. So it might jump up and forth in time. So we have also the pacing. So determine how quickly readers move through the story. So in short, it is amount of time you dedicate to describing each event in the story. We have also the popular one, the characters. So a major requirement for any story in the use of characters. So characters bring life to the story. Keep in mind that while human characters are most frequently featured in stories, sometimes there are non-human characters in a story such as animals or even environment itself. We have also characterization, so the development of characters through action, description, and the dialogue. So we have different types of characters. So the first one is the round characters, so are very detailed, requiring attentive description of their traits and behavior. So we have also flat characters, so are minimally detailed, only briefly sketched or named. We have also the static characters, so remain the same throughout the narrative or the story. So we have also the dynamic characters, so noticeably change within the narrative, typically as a result of the events. We have also the point of view. So the position from which story is told will help shape readers' experience, the language your narrator and the characters use, so and even the plot itself. So this is a non-comprehensive breakdown of the POV or point of view. So the first one is we have the first person point of view. So the narrator uses first person pronouns. Example, I, me, mine, or us when ours. This can also include internal monologue, motives, thoughts, feelings of the narrator. The second one is the second person point of view. So the narrator uses second person pronouns like you, or your. The narrator speaks to the reader as if the reader is the protagonist, or uses apostrophe to speak to an absent or unidentified person. The third one is the third person limited. So the narrator uses third person pronouns like he, him, his, she, her, hers, they, their, and theirs. So this is also sometimes called close third person. Third person omniscience. So the narrator uses third person pronouns he, him, his, she, her, hers, they, and theirs. Next slide. So we have also the stream of consciousness. So the narrator uses inconsistent pronouns or no pronouns at all. So he approximates the aggressive wandering and ungrammatical thought process of the narrator. So we have also the dialogue. So this refers to the communication between two or more characters. So we have also the 5 R's of creative nonfiction according to Lee Gutkind, who is a writer, professor, and an expert on creative nonfiction. So he wrote an essay called The 5 R's of Creative Nonfiction. In this essay, he identified 5 essential elements of creative nonfiction. These include the first 5 R's. The first one is creative nonfiction has a real-life aspect, so the writer constructs a personal essay, a memoir, and so forth that is based on a personal experience. So he also writes about real life and true events. We have also creative nonfiction is based on the writer engaging after gathering information the writer needs to analyze and assess what she was collected. He must evaluate it and expression. His thoughts, views, opinions, personal opinion is permissible and encouraged. So the third one is creative nonfiction requires the writer complete research. So the writer needs to conduct a research, learn about the topic. So the writer also needs to complete research to discover what has been written about the topic. So even if a writer is crafting a personal essay, he will need to complete secondary research such as reviewing a personal journal, or primary research such as interviewing a friend or a family member to ensure that his information is truth and factual. For the fourth aspect of creative nonfiction is reading. So reading while conducting research is not sufficient. So the writer must read the work of the masters of his profession. So for the last 5 R's, so the final element of creative nonfiction is writing. So writing creative nonfiction is both of an art and craft. So the art of creative nonfiction requires the writer's uses his talent, instinct, creative abilities, and imagination to write memorable creative nonfiction. So the craft of creative nonfiction requires that the writers learn and deploy the style and techniques of creative nonfiction in his/her work. So types of creative nonfiction. So we have the personal essay. So the writer crafts an essay that is based personal experience or a single event which result is significant personal or a lesson learned. So the writer uses the first person, I. So we have also the memoir. So the writer constructs a true story about a time or a period in his life, one that had significant personal meaning and a universal truth. So the writer composes the story using the first person. So we have also the literary journalism essay. So the writer crafts an essay about an issue or topic using literary devices such as elements of fiction and figurative language. So we have also the autobiography. So the writer composes his/her life story from birth to the present using the first person, I. So we have also the traveling writing. So the writer crafts an article or an essay about travel using literary devices. So we have also the food writing. So the writer crafts stories about food and cuisine using literary devices. We have also the final one, so the profiles. So the writer construct a biographies or essays on a real people using literary devices. So allow me to say sorry for not giving a further explanation for every element, for every theme of my discussion, since we have only 17 minutes to have our online discussion. So sorry everybody. Further explanation in my description. Thank you.